Good day, everyone. I am Cecily Jane Loperes, and I will be reporting the characteristics of motion. The correct use of motions depend upon one's knowledge of the purpose of each motion and the rules governing it. These rules can be better understood and therefore properly applied by knowing the basic characteristics of each motion, like the following: whether emotion can be made while someone has the floor, whether it requires a second, whether it is debatable, whether it can be amended, or the vote it requires, or the order of its precedence, to what other motions it can apply, what motions may apply to it, and whether it can be renewed. Number 1. Whether a motion can be made while someone is the floor, or can the motion interrupt a speaker? Generally, all motions can be made only while no one has the floor because, as a rule, once a speaker is recognized, he is entitled to the floor so long as he does not violate the rules of speaking. There are, however, certain motions which, because of urgency, may interrupt a speaker. This exceptional class of motions either require immediate disposition or are the subject to a time limit that they must be proposed and decided promptly, otherwise they would be out of order. The motions which requires immediate attention, which affects the right and privilege of a member or the organization itself, are: first, the question of privilege. It involves the convenience, comfort, right, or security organization or any of the members. For example, if a member of the group is speaking softly, he or she can raise a question of privilege to request that a member should speak loudly. Second, the point of order. It is to bring the matter involving an error in procedure or non-compliance with or in violation of the rules of the organization. For example, if the presiding officer or any member has violated the other rules of the organization, he can raise a point of order to request that a mistake has been made. Third is the point of parliamentary inquiry. It is to be informed on matter pertaining to preliminary laws and procedure. He or she can request a parliamentary inquiry to the Speaker to clarify questions pertaining to the rules of the organization. Point of information. It is to be informed on any other matter related to pending business or to the Assembly and its activities. He or she can raise a point of information to the Speaker to be informed of the questions that are pending in the Assembly. The other set of motions which can interrupt a speaker because of the time limit prescribed for their proposal and proposition are: first, to reconsider a question, where vote was taken on a question so to be reconsidered, or in a case of a convention at this meeting day because failure to make it within the time limit promotes this presentation at any other time. Second is the object to the consideration of a question. Discussion of question may be objective to at any time after its presentation to the Assembly, but before any substantial progress has been made in its celebration or before other motion has been applied to it. For this reason, it may be made even if someone has the floor, so you can interrupt the speaker in order for the objection of the question can be talked about. Divide the assembly, where to verify the vote taken in a question or to secure a more accurate account of the votes to ascertain that the chair was correct in determining the results of the vote, and to see if some members have changed their stance on the question after it has been rediscussed. The appeal from the decision of the chair. It is to ask whether a decision made by the presiding officer should be upheld or overruled. Fifth, the call for orders of the day turns a certain questions into a special order that because of the program of this business fails to take them up at their appointed time. Does the motion require second? As a rule, all motions require second, but there are some which do not because, strictly speaking, they are not motions in the sense that they offer a proposal. They are classified as motions for convenience only. So here are the motions that does not require second: motions constituting demands of request, and motions constituting an assertion of a right or privilege, which I had discussed already. Is the motion debatable? Motions may be debatable or not. The motions which can be debated upon are those that consist of substantive propositions requiring consideration by the Assembly, while the undebatable ones are those which are procedural in character and are generally decided by the chair. Here are the following motions that are fully debatable. Main motion, where it is subject to full debate because of the present matters of business which requires thorough examination and deliberation while assembling. Second is to amend. If it is applied to a fully debatable question. Since amendments to main questions and all other debatable motions necessarily dwell on the essential pictures of the principal questions, it follows that motions to amend should likewise be open to full debate. Third is to postpone indefinitely, to suppress or reject a question to which the motion is applied without the benefit of a vote of the question itself. This necessarily involves an inquiry in the merits of the question and is considered to fully debatable. Fourth is to appeal, unless applied to the undebatable question or when related to indecorum, transgressions, or the rules of speaking or priority of business. Example, when an appeal from the decision of the chair transfer the responsibility of the decision from the presiding officer to the assembly, the presiding officer is entitled to explain his decision, while the appellant has the right to argue the reasons for his appeal. Some members then could support the chair's decision while others may hold the opposite view. 5. If to reconsider, applicable only to main motions and amendments, and to rescind or appeal, applicable only to main motions as well. If both motions approve to reopen, main questions to debate and for this reason are themselves fully debatable. Can the motions be amended? Since the purpose of amendment is to modify or to alter a motion, it stands to reason that only such motions as are valuable in form or capable of modification can be amended. The motion to limit a debate to 30 minutes, for instance, can be modified to either increase or reduce the time limit. On the other hand, a motion can adjourn cannot be amended because there is simply nothing modifiable in proposition. What vote is required? All motions generally requires a majority of vote for their adoption. The few motions which demand a bigger vote are those which seek to set aside certain fundamental principles of parliamentary procedure or the rules of the organization and must therefore be supported by more than a majority of the members. The following motions as a rule require a two-third vote. To call for the previous questions, it requires a two-third vote because it restricts the right of debate and vote for the adoption. To modify the limits of debate, it needs a two-third vote because it sets aside a privileged adopted rule of the assembly. To suspend the rules, it needs a two-third vote because it involves a deviation from the rules of the organization and its purpose is believed that the minority will be protected from the arbitrary measures which the assembly may decide to take by suspending the rules of the organization. Fourth is to object to the consideration of a question. It needs a two-third vote because this motion transgresses the fundamental rights of a member to bring before the assembly any proposal for its consideration. Fifth is to amend adopted constitutions by the law, rules, or order of standing rules. It needs a two-third vote because it is based on the principle that since these bodies of rules have already been adopted by the organization, their subsequent alterations would in effect set aside the general will of the organization. What is the order of precedence? A knowledge of the precedence of motion is essential so that one may know what motion is in order at a particular stage of the deliberation, thus minimizing, if not totally eliminating, confusion of the proceedings. Following rules generally determine what motions can be applied to a motion pending before assembly. All motions can be applied to main motions and amendments except to object to the consideration of a question, which cannot be applied to amendments and to committee reports. All motions capable of modification can be amended. All debatable motions are subject to the motions for the previous questions and to modify the limits of debate. Only main motions and amendments can be referred to a committee. Only main motions can be postponed. The motion to object to the consideration of question can be applied only to the main motions. Every decision from the chair can be appealed from, and every motion can be withdrawn. To what motions can it apply? The applicability of motions to other motions can be determined by knowing the purpose of each one of them. Following is a summary of the respective functions of the different classes of motions and their applicability to other motions. Main motions, they cannot be applied to other motions. Specific main motions, it applies only to general main motions, although the motion to reconsider can also be applied to amendments and appeals. Subsidiary motions does not apply to another of its kind. Privileged motions, it does not have any direct relations with other relations or with other motions and are therefore not applicable to them. Incidental motions, it cannot be employed on other motions. A motion be renewed. Once a motion is declared lost, it cannot be renewed at the same meeting unless there has been a substantial change in Parliament situation. That is, the occurrence of any change in the business that would create a new situation, thereby giving probable cause for the Assembly to adopt a different stand on the question sought to be renewed. Motions falling under these categories are, as a rule, procedural in nature and are renewable because they are necessary for the expeditious transaction of business. That would be all. Thank you so much.